if I go back to this example data set, what I can find for a pooled p hat is this. I say to myself that n was constant at 400, and so since I have 20 samples represented there, 20 times 400 is 8,000, so there were 8,000 inspections represented there, and so this is the total number inspected. And you can check that if you add up the total number non-conforming found in those 8,000, that turns out to be 246. That is, if you add up x1 through x20, you get 246. This is total number non-conforming, and therefore this p hat pooled is 246 divided by 8,000, and this is what gets plugged. So plug this into the standards given formula to make a retrospective chart, make a retrospective analysis. That means, for example, that the lower control limit for p hat, I guess I should have said this thing is 0.0308. It's not really much different from the standard that was used to generate those 19 out of those 20 samples. So the lower control limit becomes 0.0308 minus 3 times the square root of 0.0308 times 1 minus that. You put that over 400, that turns out to be 0.0049, and you can check that the corresponding upper control limit for p hat, which is that same thing with a plus sign there, turns out to be 0.0567, and there's really not a whole lot of difference between the appearance of the standards given chart that we've already seen and a retrospective control chart for this example. There's the retrospective center line, there are the retrospective upper and lower control limits. The chart looks very much like the other one, and we still have this 1 point sample 9 plotting outside, or producing a p hat, plotting outside of control limits. And so in either case, whether one thinks about this example as a real-time standards given application or thinks of it as a retrospective application, there's a point that plots outside of limits. There is evidence of process instability or change. here. Okay, and that evidence is there because of that point outside of control limits. There are a couple more things to say about this p-charting scenario. One is that perhaps contrary to one's initial intuition, it's perfectly possible to have a lower control limit, for example this retrospective lower control limit, that's positive. So the point here is that one can have a positive lower control limit.